Hey, I'm Vlad with GlobMarble, and this is the General Overlay Guide. Before we get into any specific overlays, I want to talk about the most important thing when it comes to any overlay application, and that's prep work. Without the proper prep work, any overlay is not going to behave as advertised, it's going to chip off, and it's going to be a big mess. Certain overlays might have a little bit of a different prep work than others, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. Let's just talk about if we're putting an overlay on top of existing concrete. Now, if the concrete slab is brand new, you could get away with using something like SCR, which is a concrete cleaner and degreaser. It's acid-based, so you would dilute it with water, spread it onto the concrete, brush it in real heavily, and then wash it off. That acid is going to go into a reaction with the surface of the concrete and remove a thin layer off the top of your concrete to expose the concrete's pores, right? Think about concrete like a big sponge. You want to expose those spongy pores so that the overlay and the concrete have a good bond to each other. Now, if you're dealing with a really old and dirty slab, let's face it, that's usually what overlays are for, is for making old concrete look beautiful. You're gonna have to do a little bit more than just SCR. A lot of times old concrete is completely packed in with a bunch of dirt, grease, oils, anything like that, and it's not going to stick. In that case, you need to completely grind the concrete to remove the top layer of that concrete and expose that brand new stuff underneath. If you want to cheap out on the prep work, keep in mind it's going to severely cost you in the longevity of that overlay. But what if there is no existing concrete, right? Let's say you want to make a kitchen backsplash that looks like concrete. There's no concrete wall in your kitchen, so what do? And the answer is cement boards. You can use any product like Hardy Backer board or Durock, anything like that would do the trick. But you got to make sure that the cement board is slightly damp before applying that overlay on top of it, or else that really dry cement board is going to squeeze out all that moisture from your overlay and it's going to become sandy and really crumbly. You don't want that. Spray a fine mist of water onto it. You don't need it wet, you just need it surface damp. But if we're talking about high moisture areas like bathrooms, which is very popular right now, there's an additional step beyond the cement board, and that is a moisture barrier. So you would have the old grinded concrete or the cement board already installed. You would use a product like Elasto Shield on your cement boards or on your concrete wall to make sure that no moisture can penetrate through. Only then would you start using the overlay. Now that we got the prep work out of the way, let's talk about mixing the actual overlays. Every single overlay that we have has a different water requirement, and there's a reason for that. The water requirements are going to be both on the bags and on the websites on our TDS technical data sheets. I always recommend mixing the minimum amount of water first, because you could always add a little bit more water, but if you add too much from the beginning, you can't take it out. Now, our overlays come either in gray or white. The gray is standard concrete. If you just want it to look like concrete, get that one. If you want it to look white, get the white, or you could use the white ones with the SureTex ColorPacks. We have a wide variety of colors to choose from, and they're dosed one color pack to one bag of overlay. The way I recommend mixing the product is first you pour out the desired amount of water, you pour the pigment inside of the water, mix it in, and only then do you start slowly introducing the overlay mixture into the water while mixing. It's the easiest, fastest way to mix it, and that way you're gonna make sure that everything along with the pigment and the overlay itself, it gets completely incorporated and fully wet, so there's no like dry chunks inside of it. Now that we got all the general stuff out of the way, now we can start talking about the specific overlays that we sell. If you wanna watch about a specific overlay and a specific application, you can skip to this far ahead into the video. Now, the first overlay I'm going to talk about, and the most popular, is MicroTek, which is our MicroCement. It's actually what this table and this background is made from. If you want to check out how I made both of these in a detailed video, the video link is going to be in the description below, along with many other videos of other overlays I've used before. Now, the MicroTek is a product meant to be applied very thin that can make any surface look like brand new concrete. In fact, this table used to be an old laminate countertop, and this background was a giant piece of high density foam. It's made both for vertical and horizontal surfaces. If you're going to be doing it on a vertical surface, the most common way is troweling it. I like to start from the top and work my way down, because that way I'm not going to mess up anything that I've already finished on the bottom, right? It's the same concept of brooming the stairs starting from the top to the bottom. Now, you could use a trowel for floor applications also, but a quicker method is by dumping it all out onto the floor and then using a squeegee or a magic trowel to kind of squeegee it all across the floor. That's going to be a bit quicker. That application method, though, will require a little bit more training and a little bit more skill. The MicroTek is an extremely durable product. It's meant to be only applied at like about credit card thickness and in one coating. It's by far the easiest overlay product I'm aware of on the market. The next product we're going to be talking about, which is very similar to the MicroTek, is called SureBroom. And the only real difference between the SureBroom and the MicroTek is the sand size. In the MicroTek, the sand is very, very fine, so you're going to get a really nice smooth finish. While in the SureBroom, there's a little bit more coarse and larger grits of sand. The reason for it is because, like the name suggests, SureBroom, this product is meant to make a broomed finish. You see it very common in garages, driveways, even sidewalks. And if you have a really old concrete sidewalk, driveway, anything like that, it's very easy to make it look brand new with SureBroom. I've also noticed that broom finishes are getting really popular around pools because they offer like really good grip and texture. And you don't even need to go with the classic broom finish. You could get creative doing the swirl finish or the checkerboard finish. There's a lot of possibilities. The next overlay I'd like to talk about is SureTex, and that one is getting really popular right now. The SureTex is used to get something called a knockdown texture. How you do it is just like applying the MicroTek or the SureBroom. You apply it with the trowel, but then you take the trowel and you press it directly into the overlay and then lift it up. That's going to cause tiny little mountain peaks everywhere that are going to resemble a little bit like popcorn ceiling. But you don't want to keep it popcorn ceiling. That stuff is outdated. It doesn't look good. Instead, you're going to wait for the SureTex to be slightly cured and then go over those mountain peaks with a trowel to flatten them down. That's the secret of getting the knockdown texture. Now for these next two products, they're applied a little bit differently. The products we're talking about are SureSpray and WallSpray. Like the name suggests, you could spray it onto a wall or onto a floor using a hopper gun. These products are really popular with large-scale contractors because it's a very quick way to completely cover the entire surface very quickly. Another really popular way of using this product is in conjunction with tape stencils. So you'd put tape down onto your existing concrete, spray the WallSpray or the SureSpray, and then remove the tape, and then you have a nice stenciled floor. These products do spray on kind of bumpy, kind of like the texture of stucco, but again, you could always come over and then wipe it down with a trowel or even with a squeegee. That's going to give you that beautiful smooth finish. And now for the next two products, which are the most exciting in my opinion, because they are the stamp overlays. The stamp overlays do require a little bit extra prep work, but it's worth it. For floor applications, I'd use the product SureStamp. SureStamp works hand in hand with a bonding agent called SureBond. Once you have the concrete prepped, grinded, everything's good, what you do is you mix up the SureBond, squeegee it out. It's a very thin material, it's almost watery. You spread it out over the slab, and then you would put on the SureStamp on top of the SureBond before the SureBond has dried. This is going to make sure that there's a really good bond between those two surfaces and it doesn't start delaminating and chip off. A lot of contractors complain about stamp overlays always chipping, always this, always that. That's because they're not using SureStamp in conjunction with SureBond. You can't get any better than using these two products together. Now all the previous overlays are designed to be extremely thin, credit card thickness. Not with the SureStamp and the SureBond because obviously it's a much larger texture. How do you determine exactly how thick you should make your layer of SureStamp? The answer to that question is always going to vary on the mold that you're using. Certain molds have a very thin overlay requirement because the very highest point on the mold and the very lowest point of the mold is a small distance. There's not a lot of aggressive texture on the stones or the wood, so you only need to go about 1/4 inch. With other stamps with a much more aggressive texture, you might need to go up to 3/4 thickness on the SureStamp. Okay, now you're asking, how do I get the SureStamp at the correct thickness completely evenly across the entire surface? And the answer is with a tool called a gauge rake. So this is the gauge rake piece I use for all of my videos. You can see it has these two little adjustable sleds that you can set to any thickness, and it's going to give you an even and consistent coverage. And now last but certainly not least is the WallStamp. The difference between the WallStamp and the SureStamp is the WallStamp has a much better slump. Slump is just an industry word for how melty and watery the concrete is. Right? You don't want to remove the stamp from the concrete and see all the stones have started drooping, sagging, and looking like they're melting. Now, like the SureStamp, the WallStamp has slightly more prep work than usual overlays, and that comes in the form of a scratch coat. Scratch coat is just a thin layer of mortar you're going to spread onto your concrete wall and then make horizontal grooves in it using a notch trowel. It's very important that those grooves are horizontal because those horizontal grooves are going to be what that WallStamp grabs onto and make sure nothing falls off and starts slumping down. Now that we have all that out of the way, I'd like to direct you guys down into the description of the video where I have a bunch of links to other videos where I cover more in depth how to use these products individually, and also the links to all the products I've just been discussing. And while you guys are down there, I'd like to ask you guys for a quick favor. If you could give me a like or a comment, that tricks the YouTube algorithm into showing my video to more people so that more people can watch it. Again, thank you guys for watching to the end, and I hope you found this video useful.